Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this. We are diving back into the world of the black tapes. We are doing season 1, episode 3, the Unsound. And without further ado, let's jump into this bad boy.
There's a lot of noise surrounding the Unsound's history. There were rumors of it being a creation of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Some thought it was the Freemasons. Most claimed some affiliation with Aleister Crowley himself. There's a mountain of mythology tacked on.
Actually, Aleister Crowley is an interesting individual. If you scratch beneath the surface of the whole Satanism thing, Crowley is actually a fairly bizarre and entertaining and rather interesting person to look into. It's quite amusing. It's kind of like Sigmund Freud with a whole lot more sex. So, you know, take it for what it's worth.
But well over a year of research led me to a scientific outpost in Antarctica in 1962.
That's not very Illuminati, is it?
This team of scientists were there to study what later turned out to be a weakening of the ozone layer over the Antarctic. They were recording and cataloging electromagnetic waves and their frequencies. In the process, one of their instruments picked up this strange audio wave pattern. At first they thought it was a whale stranded under the ice, or the wind, or electromagnetic waves themselves.
But I have a feeling they're going to determine that they couldn't determine where it was from.
Or more likely a combination of the three.
Did they find out?
No. And they never got a chance to further their research because they all died.
You're not going to tell me that they all died within a year.
One of them died on the base due to a staph infection. The other 4 died in a mountain climbing expedition 6 months after their contract ended.
Ba-ba-ba-boom.
But was this within a year of them hearing the Unsound?
This isn't demonology, it's just bad luck and bad weather. There was a whole article in the New York Times about that horrendous mountaineering expedition.
So they all died within 1 year?
He's never specifically answered the question.
Hearing the Unsound? Just like the story says. You don't think that's at least interesting?
Not really. Every myth has its origin, and Antarctica in 1962 is where the dying within a year story was born.
He got me. I was just about to tell Strand how I thought he wasn't open to hearing both sides. Of course a myth has to have an origin. Strand was right. His new black tape was very interesting.
And they tend to be... People tend to have their beliefs, and good, open-minded people are open to suggestion, open to other data. They don't form a belief, then just close it. So we got to take that into consideration, because it appears that our good scientist friend is open to new data.
And it was happening in Seattle, my own backyard. Would you like to hear the Unsound?
Sure.
Me too. It's coming up after the break. I'm Alex Regan. It's the Black Tapes podcast. Stay with us.
It's like I love the eeriness of this music in contrast to the eerie but in a different way Rabbit's music, if that makes any kind of sense.
Dr. Strand's black tape number 3 contains a lot of research on the Unsound, and of course a sample of the sound itself. I'm going to play it for you in a moment, but first, my producers have informed me that I have to read the following disclaimer.
Yes, just another one of those reality touches that I love that this universe has.
You listen to the sound, you're listening at your own risk. Now, I've heard the sound numerous times, and so far, I haven't seen a single demon. But if you're afraid or superstitious, please skip ahead 10 seconds.
Let's not.
You might want to put on headphones for this.
See, I went ahead and did the entirety of the Unsound, but hopefully nobody, myself included, that, we're all still alive a year from now. But, just keeping in the spirit of the whole Black Tapes universe. Or would it be proper to just call it the Minnow Beats Whale universe or the Public Radio Alliance universe? I'm not sure. If you have any ideas, put them down in the comments below.
It's interesting, isn't it? I feel like I'm hearing a different version of this thing each time I listen. I think the closest thing that describes it is... it's the audio equivalent of seeing shapes in the clouds.
Or... if you're under the influence of, say, psilocybin or lysergic acid diethylamide 25, hearing colors.
Maybe everybody hears something different, something unique to their own experience. I wanted to learn more about the possible sources of this unsound, so I went to one of the premier acoustics experts in the Pacific Northwest, Dr. Michael Pullman. Technically, he is what's called a structural acoustician. Okay, so what am I looking at here?
Yeah, these scientists in fields like this could be interesting. They're also fun just to have casual conversations with.
So this line measures compressional waves. This one follows shear waves.
That's Dr. Pullman in his lab at the University of Washington, where he teaches in the physics department.
This one follows the deformation of the wave speed.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we're all acoustic nerds here.
Yeah. Audio nerd. I have found audio nerds and visual nerds, like Sam Houston State. Back in the 80s, had a media arts thing called radio, television, and theater. Radio, television, theater degree, which they've since changed it to something actually they've changed the name of the degree several times. No, radio, television, film. Excuse me, I screwed that up. It's a radio, television, film, because it was RTF degree. And the thing about it is, you could always, back in those days, in the 80s and 90s, back in the 1900s, you could spot an RTF major just talking to him, just because of their just niche. Because the ones that were into radio were into radio, ones in the television were into television, and the ones in the film were into film. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Very, very interesting views on the world around us from
Dr. Pullman a file with the unsound on it to see if he could explain why it's caused so much interest, why there's so much mystery generated around it.
Well, it's an interesting sound, that's for sure.
And what are you looking for?
I'm trying to gauge a possible source. I looked at everything from structural wave radiation to flexural wave patterning to whether it fits a Bessel function for uniformity, given we know there were engines in the area where it was first recorded.
Okay.
Things that we don't think of when we hear sounds on the everyday.
Let's pretend all of that went way over my head.
All right, sorry. In simple terms, what you call the unsound behaves very much like a low frequency wave. We're not supposed to be able to hear these frequencies, yet here it is emitting an audible sound.
Interesting.
Super interesting. What's even more interesting is in the patterning of these waves. I've plotted them out here. So notice these points?
Yeah, it's like they get smaller and then larger over and over again.
Exactly. Like a machine.
Like they're being synthetically produced.
In fact, it's so precise it could be an engine.
So it's from a generator or something?
Here's the thing. I believe it's a voice.
Bum. Things just got weirder. Weirder.
A human voice?
Maybe. I don't know for sure. But I think it's probably organic. It behaves like a compression wave with very precise patterning.
Well, could it be a synthesizer?
I think that's highly unlikely.
And you're aware of the urban legend surrounding this Unsound?
Only what you've told me. I suppose now we have a year left to live.
Yep.
Hey, yep. That's a scientist for you.
I'm gonna stop eating kale.
That's what you're gonna stop eating?
I hate it. It's gross. You have to put so much stuff on it.
So that was a scientific take on the Unsound. But I wanted to hear from someone who actually believes this stuff.
The motif of a portal to hell goes back to the early days of the church.
That's Francis Dreiser. He's what those in the field of biblical theology call a demonologist.
Yeah, those people have interesting. I've talked to one or two people like that, not necessarily that well educated, but people that are they're very Christian, very devout Christian. However, they have this fascination with the underworld and hell and devils and demons and stuff. And most of them are Catholic, so it's interesting to get this kind of perspective.
I went to see him at Pacific Christian Academy in Southeast Washington State. He says he doesn't actually deal with demons per se, only with the theology and history of demons in ancient texts.
If you think of the universe as God's creation, it becomes problematic when you try to locate hell. The book of Ephesians talks about the separation of a dark world and evil forces in the heavenly realms.
Yes, it does. There's also a lot of stuff in it in the Gnostic texts as well.
We know from Ezekiel and Revelations that Satan and his agents are able to access our earthly realm. How does he get here? Why does God allow that? Well, the problem finds...
Because God is a delinquent landlord. Wow. It appears so, I should say.
Something of a solution by positing a portal, a gateway between earth and hell.
Yeah, they didn't teach portals to hell in Sunday school.
No, and no, I don't think they do.
No, they sure didn't. But we know that there are demons who enter people's lives, sometimes possessing their bodies. Where do these demons come from but a portal?
Are these portals always open? Do you know where they are?
They don't work like doors. It's not permanent. They're temporal, opening for a moment and closing just as quickly.
Yeah, let's not get weird about this, actually. Getting weird about this is what makes this whole thing appetizing.
And they require a medium.
Like a psychic?
No, a middleman. Someone to invite them into our world. A believer.
Why would anyone do that?
For centuries, people have partaken in ceremonies, inviting Satan and his minions into their lives.
Yeah, there are also people that do the same ceremonies, except they invite God and angels into their lives. I shouldn't say the same ceremonies, similar. I imagine the wording is not too dissimilar from one ceremony to the other.
According to Revelations, chapter 12, verse 4, Satan took 1/3 of the angels with him from heaven. Now, that's basically an army of fallen angels, and they all want access to this world.
And depending on your particular flavor of Christianity, that depends on how many angels there were to start with. So yeah, 1/3 is a good chunk.
A portal.
A portal. Something like the Unsound?
Yes. In theory, I suppose.
Do you believe the Unsound is one of these portals?
The Unsound doesn't exist. It's nothing but a myth from a much maligned translation of the Apocrypha.
Well, I have a recording of it.
Of the Unsound.
Yes.
Yes, that thing floating around on the internet. You have a year to live after hearing it.
Yep.
Good fun.
So you don't believe it's possible at all?
I've seen too much of Satan's power at work in the real world. I can't see why he would have to kill you within a certain time frame.
And with that, we will call this video good. Hope everyone's enjoying it, enjoying the videos. Not only this playlist, but all the playlists. Starting Saturday, hopefully, I am going to do like a long video. Probably a whole different show or something, or podcast, not show, podcast, unrelated to any of the stuff that we're currently doing. Not related to Gen X or Black Tapes, Rabbits, or Kingdom of Fear. Just, I'm looking for something. I'm going to try to do something a little lighthearted, a little funny, a little tongue-in-cheek type thing, and do like a 30-40 minute type video, just because. And I'm interested to see how it affects the algorithms for the YouTube on the channel. So until then, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?